All right, lads, welcome back. We are on season one, episode two of 17 Kids and Counting, and we open up exactly where we left off with the Duggars in New York City. So these are getting out of a taxi, right? And Jimbob is saying to us that he is so happy that the taxi man is honest. I thought, why wouldn't he be, Jimbob? Now, this poor taxi man thinks that he's going to get a tip. He's not, because Michelle just hands him a picture of the whole family. I'm sure he was delighted. Now, again, I did notice that Jim Bob and Michelle, these are holding hands and completely ignoring all of these children. Now, Jim Bob says that he loves New York, but he's very concerned about what's being shown on the big plasma screens. There's screens everywhere, right? And he's worried because some of them are very raunchy. I thought, Jim Bob, calm down. The screens in New York City are not the problem. Anyway, in screen we get a comment that tells us that the Duggars watch about 7 hours of telly a month, and it's all Christian stuff. Oh, I tell you, I would have put my own damn self up for adoption. Anyway, we're meeting people in New York, and one girl tries to name all of the Duggar kids, but she can't, right? But she does get pretty close. Now, Michelle thinks that this is absolutely hilarious. This woman reminds me so much of Aurora Brown. She gets hysterical over things. Then we meet this guy, right? Now he's a complete and utter stranger, and he's asking like to take photographs of all of these kids, and he says that he thinks they're gorgeous, but now he also believes that Arkansas is just a wonderful place. He's describing the Duggar kids as friendly, beautiful, and photogenic. I thought, stop it. You don't know these children from Adam. Just stop it. That was so weird to me. Now, Michelle, of course, is hysterical again, right? Because she sees a police van. So she's saying to the kids, wave, look at the policeman, wave. She's getting all excited, right? Now, this is not a policeman. It's actually a police woman who's walking toward him. There is a policeman, but he's behind the policewoman. Of course, we're not going to mention her, you know. She is only a girl after all. So the police, both the man and the woman, they're very nice to the Duggar family, right? And they get a picture as well of the whole of all of these kids, the parents, everything. Then we hear from Jessa, and she is asked, what does she think about people who say that her parents are being overprotective? And Jessa is like, yeah, get over it. I know that a lot of people don't really like Jessa. I do. Do you know what? I think all of these girls in this family, I think they're great. I really do. I like them a lot. The fact that none of these kids pulled a Gypsy Rose Blanchard on either of their parents. Oh, amazing. It really is. Anyway, we're getting another little confessional from Josiah because this is all about Mother's Day. Now, he tells us that he thinks his mother is wonderful and without her, he would be a nobody, basically. That's what the child said. Now, Jim Bob is looking very Lego head here, right? And he's telling us that the family felt very safe in New York because there was police everywhere. I thought, is that really it, Jim Bob? Are you sure? Are you sure it's not because there's a whole load of you and you have a TLC camera crew following you around? Feckin' hell. Anyway, we're back in the hotel, right? So it's the morning of the interview, and the Today Show is after sending breakfast because there's so many of these kids, right? Now we see Michelle. We see this look for the interview. It's definitely an interesting choice. Now she has a dress on her, kind of purple, very boxy but shapeless, right? Now the hair. It looks like a dead animal on her head, right? That has been wrapped around her shoulder. It's kind of like a foxtail. That's the only way I can describe it. And then we get a terrifyingly close view of Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar kissing. This is horrifying, and I thought I need more of that in my life. Anyway, so now everybody has to be moved over to the studio, like for this interview. And I see Michelle. Now, Michelle has an umbrella with her because it's raining. She also has a baby bag. She doesn't have any baby, nor does she have a toddler, nor does she even have a feckin' child. Oh, anyway, we're in this place, right? Now, it looks like an empty PE room. This looks crap. It looks very uncomfortable. These kids are all very tired. They're all waiting around. But I did notice something. Josh Duggar has an Apple laptop with him and he's looking at it. I felt the need to let you all know that. Now I thought to myself, Michelle, where's the heavy monitoring? Because I don't see any parents beside him. Anyway, these poor kids, right, they're getting very bored. So finally it's time. So now everybody is lined up on the staircase. So it's oldest to youngest. So we have Josh first, then all the kids. At the very end is Michelle and the small babies and Jimbob. Then we see a woman called Meredith. She's the host, right? Now she's walking down the stairs, completely ignoring all of these kids. She gets down to Michelle and Jimbob. She's talking to them, right? Now we do finally see her introducing herself to Josh, but to none of the other kids, just apart from the very, very small babies. So we find out it's going to be a live screening. Now Michelle thinks that the kids don't know any different between live telly and the TV show, and then my man Josiah pops up again, right? Now Josiah says live telly is very differently because people are watching and you cannot edit anything out. I thought, thank you so much, Josiah. Michelle Duggar knows nothing, absolutely nothing about these children. Anyway, Meredith asked Michelle, does she have anything that she wants to share? And Michelle says that she is pregnant with number 18. Oh, God. Now, as she's saying this, all right, I do want to let you know that she's holding Jennifer on her lap. This is actually the first time that we have seen Michelle holding this baby. This is episode 2, by the way. Anyway, I did feel the need to let you all know that. Anyway, the kids are laughing and they're saying, wow. And Michelle is saying to Meredith, I didn't know, but my girls watch the calendar like a hawk. That is so disgusting. I do not need to know about my mother ovulating. I don't want to know what's going on there. Now, I was looking okay because we get a zoom in on Josh. I don't know if he's just pretending to be pissed off here, but he does look very, very upset. Now, he says that he is very shocked, but then he also says that it has been 9 months since the last baby. This seems very inappropriate to me because Michelle is saying that the girls are checking the calendar, and Josh is saying, yeah, it's time for another one because it's been 9 months. This is so disgusting. You know, you should never know this much about your parents' sex life. It's all the way ick to me. Anyway, Michelle says that it was very hard to keep the secret because when she was talking to Jimbob, she'd have to shut up like in case the kids heard them. I guarantee you, right? These kids probably already knew. Also, they're sick and tired of getting another brother or sister. Now I see present on the table. I'm assuming that they are for Michelle for Mother's Day. I want to see these older girls getting a present too because they are the mothers in this family. Anyway, we're hearing from Jill, right? And she said it's going to be very exciting because they get to pick out the name. I thought, well, you should, Jill. When you're getting a new baby, when you're going to be a mother again, you should get to choose the name. But she also says it will be exciting to figure out who's going to raise this child, or as they say, get a new buddy. Anyway, we're hearing from Jim Bob. We're walking around this place, Manhattan, right? And Jim Bob says that he does like Manhattan, but he doesn't want to live there because it's too noisy. I thought, Jim Bob, I am pretty sure that the people of Manhattan do not want you there. So we're off again in this big black van, right? We're off to the airport, but we get there only to be told that the plane has been delayed for 4 hours because of the bad weather. So all of these kids are shattered, right? They've been up since very early that morning. So these are all lying down. And then Scott, the cameraman, hears something, right? So he hears on the loudspeaker that a child has been found and he's talking to Jim Bob, right? Now, Jim Bob and Michelle didn't hear this. They didn't even notice that one of their kids was missing. This was the cameraman who realised. I'm telling you, lads, the bar is in feckin' hell, right? So Jim Bob is telling us about it, but we're seeing what's happened as he's telling us. So he's telling us that he was running looking for Jackson. I'm watching Jim Bob. Now, as you know, I love to see anybody running on the telly. This man is not running. He's not even jogging. He's not even walking quickly. He is walking incredibly slowly. Now, apparently, Jackson, this poor child, right, got lost when he came out of the bathroom. This little fella is only about 3 or 4 years old. Why was he in the bathroom all by himself? Feckin' hell. Anyway, finally Jackson gets back to safety. Now you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, Jim Bob and Michelle, they must have been hysterical with worry. They must have been in floods of tears. No, no, they're not. Michelle is not even with this kid, okay? She's not even there. This child is now with Janet. Now Scott, the cameraman, is the one that's patting this little fella on the shoulder and he's saying, poor Jackson, Michelle is nowhere near this child. At least Jim Bob, right? Jimbob had to cop on to pretend he was worried. Michelle doesn't even have that savvy about her. Now, Jimbob is trying to smooth this over. And he's saying that it's very normal and that people should understand they're a very big family and that things like this can happen. I say no, no, it's not normal. Get a harness for all of these children and just attach them to you. Now, Michelle says that she's very thankful that Jackson is back, but she's not thankful enough to go and give this child a hug. No. Anyway, we finally get home, right? These kids are shattered and everybody is asleep on a very ugly floral sofa. Now, we see Josh. I don't see who is beside him, but I believe it's John David. It's one of the other bigger kids, right? Now, for some reason, this young fella has a pair of brown shoes in his lap. Anyway, we're getting a close up of Josh, who is asleep. And then we get Jimbob waking Josh up, right? But he's physically putting him like sitting up. And he says to him, I think you're too big to carry. But he's not saying that to the other kids. I want to know why. This is a red flag to me, okay? I want to know why he's behaving like this towards Josh, but not to the other children. It just seemed very, very peculiar to me. Anyway, we're off. Now we find out that the family is after getting a new bus. Jim Bob bought this from a hockey team. He bought it online. I am delighted, okay? I'm delighted the kids have this to be more comfortable. Because we find out there's 15 beds, there's couches, there's everything in this. I thought, thank God, because we're off again for a 3 hour trip to a place called the Peabody Hotel. Now, while we're on our way there, we do have to stop for petrol. Now, Jim Bob finds a chicken in this petrol station. Just a chicken, like just walking around. But Jim Bob decides to start chasing it, and then he starts running for the chicken. Now, bear in mind, this man could not run when he knew that his child was lost in an airport. Couldn't run for Jackson. He can run for this chicken, though. I loved to see it. What is it about these men and the very peculiar shaped legs? I don't know how many times I watched this. Anyway, he can't catch the chicken, right? And he says it's just as well because he wouldn't know what to do with it. I thought, thank God he couldn't catch it. Janet does not need a chicken to raise. She already has 16 fucking kids to look after. Oh, anyway, we arrive at this place, at this Peabody Hotel. So, because it's Mother's Day, we find out that Michelle is going to be the honorary duck master. So, this is a tradition for the hotel. The ducks come into this hotel every morning at 11 o'clock and they walk up the red carpet, up these steps, and then they swim in the fountain. Now, Michelle tells us that she's not nervous about being duck master because daddy has the kids. That's what she says, like when she's referring to Jim Bob. I don't ever want to hear my mother say daddy. Do that behind closed doors in a soundproof room, by the way. I don't want to be involved in any of that. Anyway, the kids, these are being marched out into this hotel, looking like they want to be anywhere else apart from here. Oh, Jesus. Then I seen something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, right? Because Josh is now holding baby Jennifer. I thought, for God's sake, these Duggar parents already know. They know what he's after doing, right? But he's still allowed like to hold this little baby. I thought, Janet, one of the J girls, right? Come and get your baby off of this guy. Fucking hell, I was disgusted to see that. Anyway, these ducks, right, come out and they're heading into the fountain. I suppose it's all supposed to be very cute. I don't know. I've never heard of this tradition before. So Michelle gets this title of Duck Master. By the way, this is 2008. So these kids are not supposed to go near any the fountain, okay? They're not supposed to touch it. But of course, like they are, they're all putting their hands in. Of course they are, there's loads of them. They're bored out of it, I know. So now it's finally time for lunch. So Michelle is queuing up, right? And she's getting her food. Now she's trying to justify how much food that she's getting by saying she's eating for two. I thought, for God's sake, Michelle, nobody cares. Literally nobody cares how much food you're getting. She thinks it's a beautiful layout. I thought, calm down. This is a buffet. Oh, anyway, everybody has food and we're all sitting down. I hope these kids went up and refilled their plates as many times as they wanted. Then I hope they went back up and got loads of dessert. Oh, I really do. Anyway, I found out, okay, that the next episode is actually Josh and Anna which is a fucking trip to go back and look at that. Anyway, that is our video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, go ahead and hit subscribe. I would like to thank you all for the likes and the hypes and the shares, and to everybody who has visited my shop. And I would like to say a big thank you and a shout out to the channel members. We have Scarlett, Vanessa, Jen, Nadia, Ticey, Tina, Helgi, Donna, and Danny. Thank you all so much. I really do appreciate everybody. I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. And if nobody else tells you this, remember that I love you a long time. Slán.